Rushan, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It is
Very,
so lovely to see your beautiful face. It
same.
always
Thank
fills me
you.
with so much happiness and joy. So
Thank you.
I
Same here.
I really struggled with how I wanted to introduce you today because obviously I wanted to say the amazing therapist and psychologist I believe you to be.
Thank you.
You know, you are incredibly talented in your skill and in your craft. You have this unique
Thank you.
ability of describing things to us in a way that's understandable, both to the person who's more scientific minded, who needs that physiological science explanation, but also to the person who's emotional and needs that validation of their feelings. But the truth of the matter is that when I started this whole thing of cocktails in quarantine, the idea was to carve out a space, especially in social media, that's safe and that's honest and raw, where people can come and discuss how they truly feel and not just sugarcoat it or make it seem like it's for others and not themselves.
Yeah.
And given that that's the spirit behind this whole program, I felt like it would be hypocritical if I wasn't 100% honest with everybody in terms of how I got to know you. And the truth is, over a year ago, I was fortunate enough to cross paths with you and fortunate enough to meet you and to begin seeing you as a patient, and you became my therapist. And it was the best gift I could have given to myself, and those in my inner circle know because I talk about it freely, because it wasn't that anything major happened. It wasn't that I had this life-altering experience in that moment that I needed help with. It was actually, I was in a great place in life. I was doing well, my business, my personal life, everything, but I had hit a ceiling where I felt like I was constantly making the same mistakes with certain decisions and going around in circles. And I had done every meditation you can imagine. I had read every book you can imagine. I had tried every exercise that anyone had recommended. I had listened to every program. And I didn't have that peace from within. I couldn't understand what drove certain decisions that I could see weren't the best, or that they were the same mistake over and over, but I just couldn't distinguish. And that's when I was like, well, if I need help in any area of my life and I've hit a ceiling, I go get help. Why is it that this has such a stigma? Why is it that it's so problematic to admit, hey, I can't do this on my own? And that's when I came to you, and it was the
It was
best
my
thing that I
pleasure.
could have done, because if I didn't, I would have probably gone insane if I didn't have the tools that you've given me. So I want to start with that and to say thank you for everything you've done for me, but
Thank
also
you, man.
thank you for taking your time and how available you've made
Of course, my pleasure. My
yourself to
pleasure
this
to be with
community.
you. Thank you. First of all, pleasure is all mine, and I think it's a privilege to be able to get to know beautiful people like yourself, and you are such an amazing soul. And I always tell you, and I'm sure people who are around you, they all know that, with the passion that and authenticity that you have. Um, you can contribute a lot, and you have been contributed a lot to the society. So thank you again for having me
Of course, of
today. And
course.
getting back to the topic of this pandemic, and in the field of psychology, they started a movement. Let's change the social isolation to physical isolation, because we can be socially connected as we are right now, but physically we are uh, separated. First thing I want to mention that the role of community, and role of community is very important in this situation. I think this is the first time that anyone experienced that type of, this is the first time for in the modern history that we are going through a situation like that. And what we learned so far is right now what we need is that communication,
Yeah,
connection,
absolutely.
community, more than anything else. Aside that, this pandemic affected people in a different way. I cannot put everyone in one, we are in the spectrum. Some people are affected mildly. They have to change their lifestyle. Some people more severe, and some people is like a tornado for them.
Mhm.
They destroy their lives. So you know, I mean, I should acknowledge that first, that is different. And as a psychologist, I understand that it's very different. So we are in the immigrant community, and it's good to recognize what are the positive things that we have. One of the things that as a culture of immigrant we have, we create community, and this community is very, you know, I mean, it become very handy in this situation because the tribal culture that we have, if you look around, the amount of support that you have, that if you compare it to the individual and the host culture of America, or I assume, you know, I mean, Western society, they don't have that. And but what I see in my, you know, I mean, my own practice and experience is it impacted people so heavily. And what we anticipate is after this is over, we're gonna see the whole impact, because now we are all in the situation that we want to see what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. When things settle down, we go through another phase. And one of the suggestions that I have as far as community and as far as the culture that we are coming from, we all have some level of, you know, I mean, some sort of tradition. If you go to your mother or grandma and ask them, what would you do in the time that you had hard time? What would you do when a tragedy happened, when you would lose someone? And you see that each family, each region of Iran, they have their own culture of dealing with this type of, you know, hard situation, hardship, adversity. And it's good to get back to that and find out it's around food, it's around, I mean, any kind of tradition from any background. It would be good. It's a good time to
And
dig in.
so much of those traditions tend to have involved getting together, being around each other, because I know one thing that I know a lot of people personally have been dealing with is losing loved ones, not necessarily related to this, but just, you know, the loss, someone gets sick and they're not even able to celebrate the life of that person and get together. So how would you, I mean, for the element that's, you know, I think lacking for a lot of people is the physical feeling of closeness again. Like how can we capture that in this physical isolation? Or how do you recommend that component or aspect of it? Because that's something we're getting a lot of questions about.
Yeah. It's very hard. At the same time, we are very fortunate to be in that era of technology and to be able to see each other. I feel the connection with you right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is the beauty of what we have. And imagine we didn't have that. It was very hard to be in that situation. So it was very interesting. Right now, there are a lot of information coming from, you know, I mean, the field of psychology is on steroid, right?
On fire.
On
everywhere.
fire, yeah. So a lot of town hall meetings and webinar, and you know, I mean, it's crazy. So one of the interesting things that I heard is like with that sensation of physical body, they suggest that wrap yourself around with a blanket, have a warm tea, try to touch your arms and get the sensation. Put your hand on your chest and put pressure on yourself. So it's gonna this type of thing is gonna help with the oxytocin secretion.
I almost got a dog. I mean, I couldn't because both of the homes that I live in would not be, they're not very pet friendly. So I couldn't, but I felt like there was a period last week. It was a very tough week for me. And I just wanted someone that I knew and loved to be able to just like hold me and say, you know what, it's going to be okay. And just a simple hug. And, you know, it's so funny. I have so many of my friends who are married or in relationships, and they're just like, oh my God, you don't know. It's so challenging being quarantined with your love. Oh my God, it's just ridiculous. And you don't know how good you have it. I'm like, yeah, but at least you can hug somebody. Like, at least you have that, you know?
Yeah.
So, but that's good. That's good to know. And it's good. I never thought about that to ask.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting to me too. When I heard it, I'm like, that makes sense from the physiological standpoint. It can be
I'm gonna
doable.
sleep with 20 pillows around me tonight. That's what
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah. Let's experience it. We are all experiencing this, and I mean, we are trying different things to see what's gonna happen. And another important thing that I wanted to let your audience and whoever is with us today, they realize that it is important to understand what's the biology of stress. This is a psychological education. When you know how your brain works, it's easier when I ask you to do that type of exercise or any other exercise, and I'm going to get into it later on. It is important to understand that our brain has three parts. Very simplistic, if you want to talk about it, let's say three level. The first level is the part that is connected to our heart rate, the rate of the way that you breathe, or I mean, the sensation that you have in your body that determine if you are under stress or not. The second level get stimulated through that signals, and what's happening is then you decide to go which direction. Should I go to fight and flight mode, or should I stay and process it? I mean, it's a level of appraisal from what we see from outside, what we hear from outside, directly go to that part of the brain that is the basic part of the brain. From here, we have different paths, and then it decide to process which circuit this information want to go. When it goes to the middle part of the brain, it shut down the upper part of the brain. So all the decision making, all the thing that we need to be on top of the situation is going to go out of the window. Because when, from the biological standpoint, when you are under threat, your body want to react as fast, as strong as it possible. But this is the tricky part here. We need to appraise it in a way that it helps us to keep ourselves on a to use that upper part of our brain. The question is, we see this as a threat, as a stressful situation, or we see it as a challenging situation. There is no question that this is a hard part for everyone, in a different way. But the way that I look at it, the way that I appraise it, my brain appraise it, is if it's from challenging standpoint, then you go through the next phase, that is problem solving. And you have that level of openness to your brain provide you with that type of resources to be able to see what you can do.
So can I ask a question? So for example, if a situation really upsets me, if something happens, whether it's, I get bad news about my landlord at work and they're basically not working with me and I have to pay for 3 offices and I don't know what to do. And then I come home and my loved one does something and it just upsets me to the point of rage. So, because I'm trying to, so is that the one that's like fight or flight? So then I'm going to, if I let the rage take over, I'm going to go off on my loved one. I'm going to scream, yell, and break everything and then leave. So if I'm in that point, is there stuff I can actually do now that we're talking about it and I'm aware that that's either what I'm doing? I have 2 options when I get bad information. I can either go to fight or flight and yell and scream, or I can go into problem solving. Is there any way I can control?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm writing this down.
One of the rule, one of the things is 90 seconds. 90 seconds is the amount of time that your brain decides to choose which path. And it's very interesting. 90 seconds. And if you give yourself 90 seconds throughout your day, when you feel that you are getting overwhelmed, we don't want to go to we don't want to let your middle part of the brain, the limbic system, hijack you. We want to be in control, right? So 90 seconds rule is, we kind of tune with our heart rate, the rhythmic part. The rhythmic part is something that give us, help us to pace ourselves. If you see like walking, running, all these things has a rhythmic component to it. So for the 90 seconds rule, what we can do, one of the things that you can do is tapping. You take a deep breath, you bring your focus on your breathing, and you tap cross. This part of the brain goes and tap this part, and this part of the brain goes, and you engaging both part of the brain. So for 90 seconds, you just do that and take a deep breath. This is one way.
Okay,
the other way is you can walk and pay attention to the rhythmic walk that you have and take a deep breath. And it's so amazing how it can change the direction of where you're supposed to go. And you become in control. When you are in control, you are not helpless. When you are not helpless, the level of traumatization or going through extreme vulnerability, it reduces. What you do, you go through the circle of resiliency.
Because I think it's so important, like in the work that we've done together, because I'm usually a very calm, mellow, easygoing person, but then everybody has their triggers, and it's those times where certain things would get triggered, and I felt like I couldn't control it. But up until that point, I kind of had given up on it, in the sense that I was like, well, that's when the emotions take over. I can't help it. I can't control it. I don't know what to do. But I didn't realize that element of it's not just in my head. I mean, a lot of it is in my head, but these are like physiological, biological reactions
Absolutely.
I'm having to something that is setting me off. And a lot of times those things can be related to experiences we've had in the past, or certain things that we're just programmed to. But I don't know, for me, it helped to take some of the helplessness, for sure, and also the self-blame, the idea that I'm a bad person. I can't control my reactions. I can't help this. I'm just, you know what, I have a temper, or I'm just not a no, it's not about that. It's we're humans. We're basically used to be in the wild. We were programmed in certain ways for survival, and sometimes those things kick in. And if we don't know, if we can learn that it's not just because we're programmed to be bad or we're the problems, and they are triggers around us, but we are still in control. I felt like there was the removal and lifting out of that blame, but also, like you said, that feeling of there is something I can do. But the point is, don't react in that minute, and give yourself that 90 seconds of doing this, walking,
Yeah.
breathing, and getting back to it. That's amazing.
Yeah, or even simply throughout your day,
Yeah.
you get overwhelmed. You get you feel that tension in your body. If you pay attention, you realize that you're holding it. Also, for different people, it's different. And that is one of the way that strictly physiologically and biologically speaking, how we can control it. You mentioned a very good point about self-blame. It's a very important thing that we realize that we all have that tendency
Yeah.
to self-blame. I didn't do enough. Why I did, we have that stick, and we are the way that we treat ourselves, we usually don't treat other people.
No.
And the question is, am I able to step back and see what I am expecting of myself, and giving myself a little bit of break? It's scary. We lose it. You break down, you go through a breakdown here and there. People use different way to numb themselves,
That's a
with
huge, yeah.
alcohol, with substance, with shopping, online shopping.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
yeah,
It's
and
true.
there are different ways to numb yourself. Actually, alcohol is the top thing that I am hearing,
Right.
and it, being mindful about that, and restriction of that part. So we allow ourselves to feel. This is a time. this is opportunity at the same time that we feel what's happening inside us. We tend to not to do it
No, and that
on
was
a regular.
that was one of the most, I think, powerful things you had pointed out to me in one of our sessions earlier on when this had first happened, was because, you know, I was just having a hard time maintaining any kind of balance, in the sense that, you know, in your day, in your week, you might have that moment of something triggers you at work, your loved one, your family member, someone on the street, whatever. But it's not every day, all the time, bombarded by that feeling of, am I going to fight or flight? And for me, like I said, I'm a pretty calm person, so it was a little bit foreign. But one of the things you said to me, and I didn't really think about it, is like, you know, in our daily lives, we're distracted. On our normal daily lives, we were distracted by so many things. You know, we go to work, so you leave your work environment, you leave your home environment, you go to, and most of us go to a physical place, or at least someone in the household goes. So it's not like everyone's working from home. Your kids are usually not with you the whole time, especially after a certain age. Then on top of that, you know, you go to the gym, you have your drinks after work, or you go to dinner, or you do this, or you go on a vacation, you go on a trip, you go out, you do things, they distract you, you know. But when in this particular situation, for well over a month into 6 weeks now, we are all in a situation where we are often face to face with the things that may bother us the most, and that could be family. That could just be a feeling. That could be unhappiness with your job. That could be unhappiness with your spouse, with your siblings, with your loved ones, with your family members. And you either have to deal with that, or you have to live with that unhappiness in your face every day that causes this extreme level of stress. And that's something I had just not thought about, is that this can be an opportunity for those who want to use the tools that are available for them to maybe lessen that a little bit, or to deal with, maybe not all of it, that sounds crazy and overwhelming, but to start kind of opening the door and at least allowing themselves to feel it. And it's okay. Not everyone's always going to be happy all the time, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's the illusion. That is something that, especially in this society that we are living, it's injecting that you should be happy. You know, I mean, that is impossible.
Yeah, and that's why I
But
wanted to do this, because I wanted a space on social media where a lot of people have preconceived notions of me, and oh my gosh, you must have this. I'm very grateful for everything that I've been blessed with, and I have a wonderful life. I have an amazing family. I have beautiful friends, beautiful support network, and I'm so grateful for it. But I struggle. Everybody struggles. And the whole point is to have an honest space where you know everyone can struggle. Some of us with the same things, some of us with the different things. But at the end of the day, we're all human. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. You know, it's
exactly,
okay to not be perfect all the time.
yeah. I mean, the giving space to yourself to feel and to see. I mean, I'm a big a fan of finding the patterns in life, how we, based on our past experience, how we follow that pattern, how we directly go to that path to this happen, I'm going to go do this. You know, it's kind of automatic. Um, and figuring out people who are anxious, they are more anxious in this situation. That is the wound, that is the problem that they have. And now you can give that space for that, anxious part of you to breathe. Because before, you create urgency for yourself. We all do that. Oh, I have to do this, I'm behind, I have to, I mean, there are so many back-to-back things and planning, and that it doesn't give you that space to recognize, to see. And the way that you can see it, by creating some level of distance between you and those emotions. When you pay attention what's happening in me, you can see, okay, I'm anxious, I'm sad, I'm scared. And by naming and recognizing and being able to sit with those fear, we always talk about this, fear comes right now, it's right here. And it's like, I mean, it's your choice to numb it out,
Yeah.
or let me see it. Maybe it's not as scary
So,
as
and
I think it is.
for someone who is going straight to that, like, just being overwhelmed with the emotions and just not knowing what to do, feeling frustrated, and then wanting to go, let's say, pour that glass of wine or
Mhm.
whatever, what are some of the ways you were starting to mention, like how are some of the ways that people can see those emotions, or in a safe way that it does not overwhelm them? Can you recommend like for them to kind of learn to explore what it is that they're feeling?
Yeah, I mean, one of the and it's a scientific proven. It's not just, I mean, because you hear it a lot, journaling, writing about it. It has such an fundamental effect, again, because it brings different level of your nervous system into work. And when they are all working together, you are able to make sense of what's happening. So by writing, give yourself some time to write what's happening. How do I feel? However there is no structure around it. That is something that you can see from today till next 2 weeks. Let's plan this. Let's plan to write down a few sentences about your feeling and emotions that you have. You can do it at night, you can do it in the middle of the day, however you're comfortable. And then after this 2 weeks, you can come back and see the pattern,
Yeah.
what's happening. And then this information is so valuable that you can work around it, and you can find the roots and valuable information.
One thing it's because I was guilty of this, is that I know what I should do, but I was having a hard time doing it, and I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why. I'm a very logical person, and this idea of journaling is something that I used to always do. And every time I
Mm-hmm.
used to get overwhelmed with anything, it just would help me process things. Things don't seem that big of a deal. And I had such a hard time sitting down and writing. And it wasn't like, you're not writing a book. No one's going to edit it. No one's going to read it. It's just you and for you. I don't know why. I had a hard time just doing it. And like I said, I had a really rough week, and it was like, okay, no, I need to figure out a way. So I started every morning and I tried not to make it a big deal. So it's not like, okay, I'm just going to pour my coffee and I'm going to write two sentences. And
Mm-hmm.
usually it just started to come out
Yeah,
turned into two
yeah,
pages. But
yeah.
now I've made it a part of my routine. But like, why is it that when something is so good for us and we know that it can help us, why don't we do it? What is that block that's there? Like, I don't get it. I have to be honest, I'm a victim of that.
Yeah, I mean, me too. You're not alone in
Okay.
this. I mean, yeah, I keep talking about it, and I mean, I have to take myself and bring and sit, and with the nature of the work that I have, is very important. Self-care is very important. I mean, for everyone is important. Um, it because it point out to the part that you are trying to not to bring it into the picture. When you are sitting in the therapy session, you know that someone else is there to contain that containment for you.
Mhm,
Somebody else is holding you. When you
mhm.
are by yourself, the level of exhaustion and anxiety, especially in these days, is very high. Here and there, if you remember to do that, if you feel like, no guilt. The first rule is no guilt.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
And disassociation is sometimes good. I mean, in this particular time, people want to sit and watch movie or series and completely disconnect themselves, as long as you are physically active to be able to compensate for that. And again, the whole point is to calm down your nervous system. That is great. And the other thing that it's good to pay attention, especially when you are among the group and you're working with groups. Um, at the same time, that the most buffering things that we have in this situation is being connected in a meaningful way.
Mhm.
What you do is amazing, man.
Oh,
I follow all of your live posts, and I feel like you put your energy into the direction that is very um, beneficial for everyone.
thank
And being able to go to the world of the person who's experiencing that unfair incarceration, or those kids that they are in Iran, they are in the need of help, or a person, your friend who changed ex-lawyer who
Yeah.
changed path, because this is the struggle. These are real struggles that we all have, and you are putting it in. You give a stage to that. Let's talk about it. Let's see it. So this is a meaningful, creating a connection in a meaningful way. But there is something about that. When you are in a group and you are connected, the stress is very contagious. If one person starts to become agitated, angry, stressful, it spreads so fast. And when you are aware of that, you can be, you can kind of like diffuse the situation and know that it's gonna affect everyone pretty soon, and everyone, they're gonna lose control. So it's very contagious. Let's be mindful of people who are around us. They have their own wounds and the trauma that they experience. It gets activated. Now we are all in activated mode. And just again, stepping back and trying to understand that these coping skills that we have, not everyone has it the way that we have it, maybe. Or maybe the other person has much better coping skill than me. So understanding the toolbox that we have, that we collected throughout our lives till now, it's not complete. We have shortcomings, and it's okay. And it's absolutely okay.
And it's because, I mean, you touched on two things. I'm sorry, I keep asking so many questions because I
Sure.
feel like, I feel like I put myself in the shoes of everyone who's listening, and I think like we all share a lot of commonalities in our experiences. So often in group environment, we kind of have two people. We have, the type that just kind of react and do their thing and do whatever, and then the ones that tend to want to fix everything and maintain control and maintain a certain, level of, oh no, everything is fine, because that maybe speaks to their coping mechanism. So what would you recommend, to the fixer? So in every family, there's that fixer, there's that person who takes it upon themselves to make sure everyone else is okay. And I'm not so sure if this level of constant stress and dealing with so many people that you don't have control over is very conducive for that person. I don't think someone can survive wanting to fix everybody in a situation like this.
That is absolutely true, and there are phases that we are going through this stressful time. That this is one of those. It has some sort of graph that it shows you that when you are going to that mode of fixing and being there and helping, you tend to forget what's happening with you, and it has the consequence of burnout and exhaustion. And for the practices, and I'm saying that, let's say, step back 90 seconds, or paying once in a while, pay attention what's happening in your body, or your own time that you need to take, whatever you are enjoying it. Remember, if you don't do that, you are not going to be able to sustain. And there are many people, because of the tendency that these type of people have, people lean on them. And then they are not able to sustain it because it's impossible. It's impossible. It goes from one phase to another phase. The excitement, that rush, it's going to calm down. Right. And then you are in the battle that is not, it's not a fair battle.
So I know I asked a lot of questions, so I'm
Go ahead.
I'm gonna say, well, just one other thing, and then I'm gonna let you talk
No,
about whatever else.
Actually, that is really good. It makes it very easier for me. Go.
So if we all, like you were pointing out, we're all in an environment where, and oftentimes it's with our family members, which is one of the trickiest things, because those are often the people we love the most, and with that deep love comes all of this
have the
other
most
stuff.
baggage with them.
Exactly. So
yeah.
What do you recommend when you're constantly in that environment and you all have different personalities, you all have different coping skills, you all have different mechanisms to deal with stress? How do we coexist? Like, what is your recommendation to, in that minute, like, of being able to coexist without, driving each other crazy all the time, but not in a way that's also contributing to high levels of tension in the home all the time?
First of all, realizing that it's contagious. So the other person lost it, you can get easily triggered and get to the same level. That is something that when you know, so you tend to be aware of it. Out of 10 times, again, always I give that example. If you're able to manage it 4 times, that's a huge victory. And being able to check out, being able to disassociate, to recharge and come back, and constantly be aware that is not going to be a pleasant time, that we cannot all bring our best of ours into the table in this situation. Actually, we are bringing the shittiest part. I'm sorry for my language.
No, it's the truth. This is what I'm talking about. Raw, honest, and true.
Yeah. So that's how it is. And again, I'm going to go back to the biology. What we see, what we hear from our environment, it shows the path that your brain, which path you're going to go. You're going to go to the higher part of brain, in the middle, you're going to lose it or not. So yeah, it's harder on people who have more capacity of or more resources to keep themselves calm, to be a leader. It's hard. I mean, it takes a lot of energy, but that's what you have. When you have more money, you're able to spend it better. And that's how it is. When you have more capacity, when you work on yourself, when you are aware of your own shortcomings, we are in the situation that we are dealing with each other's shortcomings.
Right.
We are facing each other's wounds. And as any move, you poke into that wound because the helplessness, you're out of control. We all had our life designed the way that we can feel the least of the pain. We designed it that way. You go to work, you have your routine, you do that, you do this, and then you come back and you have perfectly under control. Once in a while, you lose it.
Right. So true.
But now you're not operating in that system. Again, another suggestion is having routine, not crazy part that coming up with a crazy structure routine that bring that guilt, oh, I couldn't do it. But yeah, I mean, some level of predictability, some level of feeling that you are taking care of yourself. That is very good to have in this situation.
Dr. Golestaneh, thank you so much. This has been, I'm sure, so incredibly helpful. And you have done so much you've always done so much for the community, and you've always been there as a support. But I know that especially during this difficult time, you've really, really put out a lot of resources. For those who haven't been familiar with your Instagram page, it's Dr._Golestaneh, correct? At Dr._Golestaneh. And I know that you do have, because a lot of people ask for this to be in Persian, and we can talk about that and redo it in Persian. It's difficult balancing between the two because a lot of people prefer it in English, then the same amount are saying do it in Persian. We can do anything because, like I said, anything goes in the quarantine. But you have a lot of resources available. You do a lot of live events yourself on your page that are in Farsi. You have some incredibly helpful charts. You have some really, really great information. So thank you for doing that, because I do think one of the essential ways of getting through this is reminding ourselves that we are a community and we do support one another, even though we feel disconnected. And also each of us, not just taking, but giving back where we can and how we can. And it's amazing how giving makes everything better, and giving back and helping somebody else actually makes you feel better. Like it just it's a calming effect that it has. I don't know what it's helpful. And that's why I always say in the beginning, when I was having a really hard time and I had to go on these live things, I was like, what did I do? I just want to be miserable, and I want to be sad, and I want to be depressed, and I want to lay in bed, and I just want to be like, whatever, just watch a show. But then every single time, the minute it started and I saw, you know, the beautiful face of the person I'm speaking to, and I saw everyone's interaction, and then later for 24 hours hearing about thank you for this, and you know, this many people saw it and this many people did it. That's just, it's like, okay, there's a world bigger than you and bigger than the pain you're feeling in that moment. And if you take a moment to allow yourself to feel it, you'll see it.
Yeah, it's not about me, it's about us.
Exactly.
Now we are all in this together. And as you mentioned, you know, I mean, the capacity that I can see people as patient is very limited. How many people I can see in a week? You know, I mean, they are very limited number.
I don't know,
And
but I'd
in
like
the
to
week,
reserve my spot forever. So please, I want to make that very clear.
your place is always safe.
Like, that will hunt you down.
It's guaranteed. So yeah, and I would love to do this, to have that, and I encourage people, if you want to talk, if you want to, because we need to give room when we hear from each other, and I hear your story, when you hear my story, it resonates with you in a different way. So not only you come and talk about whatever is going on with you, or however you are dealing, or your strength, your weakness, whatever you have, also it gives that opportunity to other people to resonate with what's happening. So if what I'm trying to do is trying to have these lives, whoever wants to come and send me the questions, or if you want to participate, you can do that. And I would be, you know, I mean, majority of the talks that I have on Instagram and Facebook and Telegram, all these different media, is majority in Farsi, and I'm here to help. So
You're amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you
thank
for the
you.
incredible work that you do.
Of
I
course, thank
know
you
people
so
are
much.
going to have find this so helpful, because in hearing it again, I know it already helps me again. And please stay
Thank
safe
you.
and well and strong. And we are
You
here for
too.
you too. So
Thank
don't
you
forget
so much.
that.